as we speak so much about the war heroes, let's spend a moment focusing on the families that give them the courage, the support and the backing to do what they do. And what struck me as remarkable as I went through Rahul and Shiv's book is the instances where the wife of a fallen officer or a Jawan has signed up to join the services, saying, I will take forward my husband's mission. And that gives me goosebumps. Shiv, you've just lost your loved one. Typically, you would imagine that somebody retreats into a shell, hates the army that took your loved one away from you. Instead, you've got young children, wives saying, I want to don that uniform.
It's actually incredible. I think there are five occasions across our 3 books, Rahul, in which officers or soldiers have lost their lives, and their and their wives have given up a pretty stable life. One was a professor in a college. One worked with an investment bank. One was a physical education teacher in a school. Just to sign up for the army. One of the, many people here may not know this, but one of the Veer Chakra awardees of the Galwan clash, his wife, Rahul, who lives in a small village in Madhya Pradesh, has just entered the army. She's at the academy. She's going to be in the army very soon. Another one is already a logistics officer. She lost her husband post the Pulwama clash. And we've spoken to all of these army ladies. We've spoken to them and asked them, what was it? Why did you feel the need to do this? And for them, once the media spotlight over the death of an officer or a soldier kind of evaporates, their only army, and you know this, Rahul, the only army is the forge. The unit stays in touch with the families. The unit is there to help the families with anything they want. And I think that kind of fuels a sense of purpose. And they feel that the only way to keep their husband's legacy alive, or to complete an incomplete mission in the case of young officers or soldiers, is to join the forge themselves. It may seem very irrational because some of them have young children, it completely uproots them, it disjoints their life, but they've got an absolutely razor-sharp sense of purpose when they say, I don't care how I'm going to do it, I'm going to train, I'm going to get into the forge. And they all have.
And you describe, Rahul, several of these instances where a Jawan or an officer about to go on a special operations mission, for example, is calling his loved one, his wife, just as an example. He can't tell her what he's doing. She can sense something is amiss. And there are instances of them Googling the weather to get a sense of how things are wherever they are posted. And yet they're never saying no. They're never stopping them or emotionally blackmailing them to be careful. They're just saying, you go out and do the right thing.
So, very rightly said. So there's all of these guys, even as we speak, the army is launching hundreds of operations in the mountains of Kashmir, in the jungles of Northeast. Most of these soldiers who go out on these missions have a quick WhatsApp call, or if the signal permits, or a quick call with their families. And imagine the anxiety of the family when you see the last seen message was 3 days ago or 4 days ago, and you can't get through to the number. It can be like really overwhelming. And so there's this one lady, she called up her husband's cosmet. She says, I can't get through to him. What do I do? He hasn't called me. He says, don't worry if he hasn't called you. Just pray that nobody else calls you. You know how it is. So, and these families are so inspiring, Rahul. All of us have met these families. All of us come from army families. Shiv is also now half army. And when you talk to these people, the fortitude they show. I was having a chat with Group Captain Rahul Singh's father. He's a Rajrif officer, Colonel KP Singh. And when I speak with him, it's as if nothing has happened. He talks so fondly about Varun, talks so fondly about what Varun achieved in his. Varun was in his 30s when he was one of the officers who died in the serious chopper crash. But we wrote about him not for that, but for a really crazy mission he undertook in a few years ago, for which he got a Shaurya Chakra. He was asked to eject thrice, 3 or 4 times, Shiv, if I remember rightly. But he did not, because he was flying in LCA and he did not want the LCA's reputation, the first India-built fighter, to get tarnished. So when the families talk about these things, for instance, can I take a minute? So Varun was one of the guys who was shortlisted for the Gaganyaan mission, and he didn't make it because there's something, you have to have a certain amount of jaw density. That was the reason he couldn't make it. So his father says Varun's favorite line was, "Your destiny is, your jawbone decides your destiny." That kind of, they come up with these anecdotes, and you don't really feel as if they've, what they've undergone.